Oh no, what's she doing making another video? Well, without any context. So I'm hoping that people... I was just having a wee look there. I think it needs to be said. I'll just bring this over.
Kim was the longest working employee because she was there from the very beginning. She was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al, and Al almost. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Heavy D was found dead, face down in the heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas, and the next thing you know... You want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. Coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas, and the next thing you know... You want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas, and the next thing you know... You want to know what they all had in common, though? Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al, and Al almost. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Heavy D was found dead, face down in the heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas, and the next thing you know... You want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Heavy D was working on a book before he died. Kim Porter was working on a book before she died. And Al B. Sure was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma. Has Puffy ever been in a coma? Has anything happened?
My mother
Kim was the longest working employee because she was there from the very beginning. She was Andre's personal assistant. Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al, and Al almost. Heavy D was found dead, face down in the heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas. And next thing you know, you want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. Coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas. And next thing you know, you want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas. And next thing you know, you want to know what they all had in common, though? Kim is dead. Heavy D is dead. Andre Harrell is dead. The only two left are Puffy and Al. And Al owns. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Heavy D was found dead, face down in the heart attack. Andre Harrell, heart attack. Kim died from pneumonia, but there's the first coroner's report that said that she died. It was ruled a homicide, and they found toxins in her body to prove that she had been poisoned. You know, they have poisons that create heart attack and pneumonia-like symptoms. And then right after that, Al had a meeting, and I was going to meet up with him because we were in Vegas. And next thing you know, you want to know what they all had in common, though? The survivors and the late of Uptown Records, they were all writing tell-all books. Andre was writing a book right before he died. Heavy D was working on a book before he died. Kim Porter was working on a book before she died. And Al B. Sure was working on the documentary of his life. And then he goes into a coma. Has Puffy ever been in a coma? Has anything happened?
My mother hasn't given birth in 1984.
It's just all a bit fun though, trolls? Yous that came on to troll the page and stuff. You know, you're letting yourself and everybody else know who you are. And how easily your lies are exposed. Dearie me. This is a company that had a supervisor that was drugging and raping the wives of the staff. What they done to Ronnie was just fucking wrong. You know what I mean? But I don't know Ronnie, but he was trying to play me. Well, obviously he was trying to find out what I knew, because I had been privy to a conversation by email between 3 parties that, you know, one of them was his ex, and he did not have a clue what was actually going on between the 3 people. He honestly thought that it was the older da that was having an affair with his... He thought it was his boss that was having an affair with his woman, and had sent him out into the desert deliberately. But it wasn't just the boss, it was also the boss's son. Or nephew, whatever you feel more comfortable with. Sorry, but I do get my little digs in, and if you knew these people, you would understand why I'm so caustic. The Fun Pub in Labuan. I've actually got the receipt for the Fun Pub in Labuan that was used to, with the credit card that was used to pay the bar fine that night. All the tigers and cocktails. And Iron Brew, of course, in Labuan. So when you see internal work emails for staff members to each other discussing the arranging and procuring and exploitation of trafficked women and girls for the Fun Pub in the Dorset and the Kings, that's the other place, Kings Karaoke, and all these places change their names regularly because they're always raided, and children are usually always found on the premises and they've been exploited for sexual purposes by old men, but they were only sitting for pictures. Stevens Ma said. Anybody that knows this situation knows I kept my mouth shut out of respect for my partner when I should have really opened it a long time ago about that woman. So I done it when she sent me that email in response to me telling her what I had found. She called me a liar and tried to gaslight me. She had known about this for years. Of course, this was the woman that took her 10-year-old boy to see Sticky Vicky in Benidorm. Know that I'm blaming her for all this. But what is it with the lodge? You know, I don't understand the going to chapel and going to the lodge. It's weird, isn't it? It's almost like you're a trophy if you're a Catholic woman and they take you to the lodge as a wife. Who wants to be somebody's trophy? A Samarang oil field. So that was when, you know, Stephen writing to Sean. Alright. So this big Newcastle contingent's been flooded with money for people that want to buy their pals 12-year-old Waynes. But it came out in court a few years later. Didn't it, boys? Well, I'll just leave it there. So, I'm expecting the network, obviously, to take revenge on anybody that's blowing the whistle. Ronnie, it seemed that Ronnie was there to try and, you know, be a sheepdog to a sheep. But I keep telling these people, I'm not a horse or a sheep. Yous have got a sick obsession with animals. And they have. And so is a 764 Discord Telegram network. So, Jojo knew all about Bobby Gallagher. The glaring omission lot of people online doing hunting. And sometimes they kind of give each other information. There's a CV that's been omitted here. Pardon me. It's a partial CV. The Jubilee line. This is probably why I'm going to get murdered. Because that's stupid. Let's see. If you meet somebody and their brother-in-law's a blue angel, right, but they don't really socialise with them or do anything with them, they hardly really see them, apart from when they go over to the family, events and at the weekend, when he's dropping his mum and dad off for the lodge. I found it strange that I found out that the social club was the lodge after we split up. I didn't know his mammy was going to the lodge every fucking Saturday night. I don't know a lot of women that are going to the chapel and the lodge at the same time. I think in my whole life I've known two. Anyway, sure, in Glasgow, where we were, the majority of people were either Catholics or Protestants. The majority of people. And that's how it was. A luxury apartment that faced onto that was our house there. Faced right onto the pool, right next to the Marriott Lake, and the Marriott Hotel just sits there. There was a woman raped in that hotel. I was at the one just down the road. It wasn't that far anyway, by 4 staff members of the hotel. And then she went and reported it, and then they arrested her, and she ended up in the jail. And that was when I looked at Stephen. I says, I thought you said all these stories weren't true. And he just laughed. And that's when you realise that you've been with a predator. And you say to yourself, okay, so did this just happen when he came to Dubai, or since when did this happen? And I had to start answering questions, because this is my life as well, And see that wee black and white checker flag for the conspiracy theorists out there. But the black and white's all over it, the 33. And strangely enough, there's a lot of fighting Irish in Dubai as well, which came into the whole thing as things progressed. We've seen one of Ireland's leaders being used in this whole thing. I'll no name her. I think she must be embarrassed. Hey Ram, so that's for Stephen. These are internal emails with the screen snaps of internal emails that were on the original devices. Oh, look at him playing Jim there. I could be back in Glasgow with Tracy. But money in the apartment in KL. I mean, I'm sure these things were supposed to be kept secret for people like me, And that was why they would drug and rape wives and partners. Send their staff members away for 4 or 5 or 6 months into the desert. And then the wife is left there herself with no support, probably freaking out, with no support system. And then, the big white knight runs up one night with a wee bottle of vodka, whatever it is. I didn't drink alcohol, so there was no chaps on my door for any of the staff. members, but there was messages sent whilst I was there that were letting me know that they had the power to take my passport and take me to the desert, and that I needed to comply. And we have your mum and dad. And I thought to myself, these people don't know me because my dad's not here. We have your mum, your dad and your sister. So whoever it was, you know, they knew that my mum stayed with somebody, but they obviously thought it was my dad. It wasn't my dad, it was unfortunately it was my mum's partner. So we made a mistake there. But we threatened. I got another message a couple of years later, we have your mum and your sister and that ankle of yours. And they know where this comes from. And I know where it came from. So, you know, it's about the evidence, and if I hadn't collected this, I'd probably be already dead. But I'm sure they've got something in store for me. So I'm just living life to the full. As much as you can when you've got your plate's full, you know. I went to my doctor and told him about this, and he laughed. And he said, that's just a silly breakup. And it turns out that this is one of his workers who worked in one of his brothels. Imagine that. It get exposed in the papers. I'm not mentioning any names, but how can a doctor like that protect and safeguard trafficking victims, whether they're adults or children? If he is so desensitised to pain because he gets whipped on the daily, and he sees problems every day and he's just completely disassociated and desensitised, and he laughs when people tell him that they've been through trafficking by a company of billionaires that's owned by a ruler in the Middle East. It's quite bizarre. I've never experienced anything like it. When I went to my doctor about the childhood trafficking, I never experienced anybody there laughing. Nobody was laughing because everybody knew I was telling the truth. This guy is obviously part of a network that works with Dubai sex workers. Some of them are out there because they are willingly doing it. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the children and the women who have been rescued because they were forced to do what they're doing. Obviously, there's some rich women that go there because they've got the approval of some of the traffickers and the predatory men that run the show, and the corrupt police that allow it to go on for certain people. Yeah. They love our Highland Spring in Dubai. The shelves are full. It was just something that I observed. So this was something that I screen snapped because when I first started researching this, I realised that this was dated on that way back to 2009 basically. And that was when I realised, I was like, they've been there for the 70s, APS. And I'm sure there's a culture, a corporate. So people could say, oh, blame the victim. Tracy, how are you so gullible that you trusted Stephen to go to Dubai and work and you thought he wouldn't have an affair or something? Somebody said that to me. And I said to them, well, do you know what? At the end of the day, right, maybe part of every woman that has a man that works away will say to themselves at some point, oh my God, he's had an affair. And depending on what that was, you know, if it was a serious thing, and it's an individual thing to people. Personally, I just think it's impossible, innit, to stay with somebody if they've showed a pattern of deceptive behaviour towards you personally, and you've been intimate and opened your space to them and stuff like that, and they've been deceiving. Well, that's it's obviously what a lot of men get their jollies for, and it's not all men. I'm going to add that, because I do love men. I'm a heterosexual woman, you know. That's part of the whole thing, is that I do actually quite like and love men at times, you know, but it's just that when they turn into bad people or they do things like this, and that goes the same for any of the women that are taking part as well, so it's not really generally anything to do with what they call misandry, you know, because if, you know, you're a woman or a child or a female who's been, you know, robbed, mugged, I've been attacked with bricks and tights for a boy in Cranhill, bricks and tights, stones all bashed up. I was on the ground and he battered into my head with it. I've had men, you know, traffic me when I was a child, try to abduct me when I was a child. I've seen the absolute worst face, I think, of men and what they do to women. You know, I've lived with a psychopath who was a killer, who murdered a pregnant woman and her man. He was a serious psychopath, this guy, and he had been in a serious psychiatric unit over in Canada, and he had been experimented on by a serious nutcase called the Self-A-Doctor, Elliot Barker. And so that experience, being forced into a space with him when I was about 10 or 11, was one of the hardest things that I had to go through, and I had been trafficked before that. So having to be in my living space with this guy, you know, who was basically putting a nice smile on when everybody else was there, and as soon as their backs were turned, he was poking me, pinching me, telling me my dad left me because I was a wee bastard. And I was to know this, and I just knew there was this big secret about my dad. I didn't know what it was, but he used to use that to try and hurt me. They're sadists, you know. So it's no that I hate men or any other lassie that I know that's had this experience or that call themselves a feminist or whatever you want to say. It's just that basically men are, you know, that some men, a lot of men, the majority of these crimes and this behaviour comes from men. And I think that the last 10 years has been about them trying to make out that it's women that do everything wrong. And that's what the Johnny Depp trial was all about, because it was MBS that funded that, by the way. Did you know that? The trial, the trolling of Amber Heard was funded by the leader of Saudi Arabia and Johnny Depp, who's a friend of Roman Polanski, who raped a 13-year-old child in Jack Nicholson's house in Mulholland Drive. And they're all well known for what they are. So, you know, Mr. Polanski got a free pass from the majority of the people in the business of show who were lining up to work with him, and hate people like me that say anything about it, and they say, oh, his victim doesn't even care now. Right, look, all we're saying is, right, if you're in a powerful Hollywood position like that and you're raping 13-year-old children, right, you've crossed a line there, but there's a culture among these people who've got a lot of money, and they schmooze a lot with the people in Dubai. So you'll always see celebrities in Dubai, and see the ones that you see going there and promoting the place, right? It's the new Hollywood, in a way. It's where the money is. Hollywood has been exposed, and I'm sure that, you know, they're trying to replace it with something, but, you know, it's absolute censorship in Dubai. And I'm sorry, I'm probably going to offend a lot of people, but where there's censorship, you don't get good art. And so this censorship It rules in the church, it rules in any religion. People have to keep their mouths shut and no speak their minds and stuff like that. The only thing I liked about America, one of the things I liked about America, right, was that people are expressive and they're allowed to be expressive. Whereas in Scotland, right, you have to be, you know, like cool or reserved. It's a stiff upper lip. They don't queue in Dubai. I mean, this is what, you know, I just observe human behaviour, and I was just like, God, nobody queues here. And I'm like, and I thought about us all standing here for ages in queues, being really civilised and dead polite and all that, and thinking how we don't really deal with it very well. And I was looking at all these people just basically like bodily, using their bodies to push other people out of the way to get to the front. And I was just thinking, God, completely different cultures. And I think that the way we are, you know, so, you know, polite and controlled, and I don't know, I just think part of it can be good for you, but it can also be used in a sort of negative way, where we put up with all sorts of rubbish, you know, we're well groomed and compliant, you know, to, I don't know, be obedient, stand in line. I'm so much more ordered in that respect. And so I'm sure politicians and governments prefer people that are ordered and militarised and able to, you know, obey orders. God, this video's going on for a while. But, you know, I'm just documenting everything that's been happening. Yes, in 2019, that's right. So it was like 2016, 17, when I was starting to go, fuck this, I'm going public with this because nobody's helping me here. Saud and Iran have went onto the UN boards, and there's other organisations to help women and trafficked women, and they had let Saudi Arabia and Iran onto their boards. Iran, that hangs teenagers, that hang female teenagers, you know, where they're murdering women. And, you know, you can say, oh, you're just coming under the media agreement. No, I've been over in Dubai and under theocracy, light, and in Iran, they're under theocracy heavy. So I've got maybe just a wee bit more understanding than some people. I'm very much aware that there's other people that worked in Dubai, they don't have a problem because they turn a blind eye to the slaves. That's fine. You want to turn a blind eye to the slaves, it's no fine for me to turn a blind eye to the slaves, but if that's what you want to do, what can I say to you? But I couldn't do that. You know, I couldn't do that. And it was just, there's so many people there trying to justify it as well. Oh, but, you know, everybody has to work. That's no work, that's forced. You know, that's, we've got your passport, you can't do anything, and we're going to give you nothing, next to nothing, for a wage, and so you can't pay to get back out again. They're control freaks, right enough. It's a place called Ratskis. And that's what you see there is terror, as far as I can see. We've got terror in the room, full of wee girls, and terror grins, because they're surrounded by men, like the girls in Labuan and all the other places in Dubai that are doing this in open. And do you see how they're all sort of dressed like wee teenagers or young children? Socks and a culture of, you know, children. It's a culture of paedophilia. That the hotel runs it. They know it. The staff are complicit, believe it or not. They have to be. And there's this big show, see these red balloons and the thing and all this, the suits and you'll see all the girls as well, right? You'll see a lot of the Filipino girls that you've seen in the last picture, you'll see them maybe on the hotel website sitting and, you know, big birthday cakes being brought out to them and everybody making a fuss of them and them smiling and sitting with all these older men and these smiles on their faces. And everybody thinks, oh, you know, I've heard women saying, you know, oh, wee sluts and all this kind of stuff. Because they think that because these wee lassies have been told to go out and have sex with these men and then pester them or whatever it is that they do, you know, these women will say, and one of these women was a police officer that said this to me, oh, it's the men that are being scammed, not the other way about. I could not believe what I was hearing. I mean, have you not heard of the super brothels in Poland? This was a female. I couldn't understand what had happened in the culture. But obviously I had taken severely ill and I had been, you know, dealing with certain surgeries and stuff, and I would have been left in my bed a lot, so I'm cut off at these times. And at that time I, you know, hadn't seen the change in the culture. It was only when I seen that Saudi and Iran had went onto these women's trafficking organisations and onto the boards, and that was when I realised all these boards have been paid off. The UN's been paid off as well, and it's no longer what the actual organisation was formed to do. It's not serving that purpose anymore. It's a Trojan horse for something else now, to legitimise the trafficking and moving about and rape of young children and young girls, and to make the world approve and say, oh, you know, he's a prince or he's a business executive, you know, he deserves it. He deserves to drink himself to death and rape young children abroad because, you know, he's worked hard, that poor man. Fuck off, right? So, that's it. I'm going to end it there.